Hello, and welcome to the ASDRP Researcher Interview Series. Today, I'll be talking with Tanay Pathakamuri. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. To start off today, I would first love to know about how you found out about ASDRP.
So I found out from ASDRP just looking through research programs on Google because I was interested in doing biology research in like a lab where I could have access to like these really good instruments and perform real experimentation. So I just found it by searching through Google and I thought it was a cool program and I applied for it and I got in and then yeah.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
What high school do you go to?
So I go to Columbus High School. It's actually in Georgia. It's in a city that's about an hour from Atlanta. It's like the second biggest city in Georgia. So yeah, that's where I go.
Okay, nice. So you are remote working with ASDRP?
Well, for the most part, yeah, but for the summer, I actually relocated to California for 6 weeks so that I could work on this project, as well as, travel around California and the Bay Area. So
Oh, that's awesome. That's super cool. Have
yeah.
you been to California before?
No, this is actually my first time. It's a pretty cool place. There's a lot more to do than back in Georgia.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it here.
Yeah.
Um, how long have you been researching with ASDRP?
This is my first summer, so I started during the like summer semester, and then I finished all the like the Canvas stuff, the like safety training and all that. And so then after that, I started on my project.
Awesome. And who is your advisor?
Um, Dr. Ranganathan.
Nice. And what project are you working on this summer? What has your research been about?
So I'm working on the TQNLC project, which is it's working on thymoquinone used alongside piperine, because piperine is a bioenhancer and thymoquinone has pretty bad bioavailability because it's not absorbed well by the body. And so they're used together as a cancer treatment. And this is all under targeted therapy, which is where, there's some form of carrier taking the drug to these specific cancer cells to help decrease tumor size and treat cancer. And so they're also being used with this nanolipid carrier, which is like the delivery system that is being used with the drugs to help get these drugs to the place they need to be to start acting on the cells. And so it's being used. So the actual project was using each treatment alone and then using it in combination to see how they work together compared to how they work just by themselves. So the project yielded some pretty nice results as well.
That's super cool. What results have you seen so far?
So we saw that the thymoquinone with the piperine in the nanolipid carrier actually had the best effect on the cancer cells. So the group I was working with had been working on it for a long time before I came, and they had found multiple different ways to measure the cancer's like death and growth rate. And so they found that the one with all three of the like treatments, all three of the groups affected the cancer at the greatest rate.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So what has your role in the project been first when you were remote and then now that you're here in the lab?
So far I kind of just help them. So I've been learning a lot, which is like kind of my role, I guess. I haven't had like an established role yet, but I kind of, I just look on and help them move stuff or do whatever really like the group leaders need me to do. This project's almost done, so I'd like to start my own project after that. So yeah.
Nice. What is the process of wrapping up a project look like?
So, well, it's like when you're publishing, you have to get all your references, make sure you acknowledge all the right people. And then when you're wrapping up, you need to make sure that your data is conclusive and reproducible. And then you send it to the publishing site or whatever, and then you go through that process, which can be 6 to 8 months, or it can be up to a year or however long. So,
Okay, cool. So you'll see your work published soon. That's really awesome.
yeah.
Where are you looking to take your research next?
So next I want to like, you mean like places or like what type of research do I want to do next?
Oh, like at ASDRP, what project do you want to work on next?
Okay, yeah. So next, I've actually been talking about like a new study that I want to work on that compares different types of targeted therapy, active versus passive, with these nanolipid carriers being the passive form and antibody drug conjugates being the active form, and comparing them to see how they work in the different assays that my previous group used. And this way we can compare the strengths and weaknesses, also as well as the practicality of using each form of treatment. And so that would give like a more like in-depth, conclusive evidence of like which treatment works better and like how it works better and what different areas it works better.
Okay, yeah, that sounds super fascinating.
Yeah.
Um, and really relevant. Um, what has been one of the greatest challenges you've encountered in your research this summer?
So this summer I think we like didn't have these targeted or not targeted, the treated plates that we were supposed to work on for using the cells. And so I think the cells like they died off and now we have to get new cells for this project. Just that whole process of, like not being able to get access to these plates and then the cells dying off and then not being able to get into the lab for a little while. I think that was probably the hardest process that I've dealt with so far.
Mm-hmm. What does the process of obtaining cells look like?
So you have to get approval from one of the lab techs or one of like the workers at the lab, and then you got to get it, and then you passage the cells. Some groups like freeze down half of them so that if they mess up with the other half, they have these other like half of cells they can like reproduce and work with. So it's a pretty like time consuming process where you have to take care of the cells and make sure that nothing's being contaminated and they're in the right environment and stuff.
Okay, interesting. What do the experiments you run on the cells look like?
So I actually haven't ran any of the experiments like myself yet, but it's basically you're just applying the treatment to each of the cells, or not each of the cells, but like each of this like cells groups, and then you're measuring the amount of like cell decay and the amount of like cell decline through these different methods like FTIR spectra or whatever.
Okay, nice. That's really interesting.
Mhm.
Um, so other than the challenges, what have you found to be the most rewarding so far?
The most rewarding is definitely the experience that you gain from being in the lab and actually seeing everything and seeing how research take place and actually going through that whole process of, experimentation of like collecting results, collecting data. I think that whole process of actually seeing it firsthand and going through it, especially with like tissue culture, which is something that's very time consuming and very like cautious because you can't contaminate the cells. Seeing all that, and especially because you can produce results that can be so beneficial to the real world, is definitely the most rewarding. It's just, the raw experience that you're gaining by being here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have any past research experience before you started here?
Yeah, so I pretty much do research every single year. I've published one of my old papers. So but I haven't worked in like a laboratory, but I've done a lot of independent research using like a makeshift lab. This is what I was looking for, is actually having the access to a lab that, I can gain experience at, because I had the experience with research and research writing and publishing. I just didn't have the experience with like actual lab work and actual seeing like how these scientists are working and seeing how tissue culture is being handled and all that stuff.
Wow, that's really cool that you're bringing that perspective and that experience to ASDRP.
Yeah.
That's awesome, especially that you can be here in person
Mhm.
for the weeks that you can.
Yeah.
Um, a question on a broader scale is, do you feel as though your research has changed anything about the way that you view the world?
Yeah, it definitely has, because now I kind of see like the way that like, even like pharmaceuticals and insurance companies, they all get their data from these like procedures that are used in labs. And so everything kind of starts with the labs and seeing how these drugs are like working against different cells and how these treatments are working. And then they're sent up to the pharmaceuticals, and these sales reps are, selling their ideas to the doctors. And then it's kind of, because I'm very interested in medicine as well. So I've like shadowed doctors and I see like these sales reps and stuff. And so it's kind of like helped my view gain like a more holistic vision. because I can see how it all starts from the lab that's actually creating the new treatments, the new procedures, the new drugs, the new substances that can treat. And so all of these are just, it's kind of like a chain that starts here. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's very cool. So are you looking to continue research in the future as like a career?
Yeah, so I'm not really sure if I want to like be like a biologist or something. As I said, like I'm really interested in medicine, and doing lab work helps a lot with that because you can see how like the cells are being manipulated. You can see how they're being treated, how different treatments interact with different biological components. And so all that helps with my like medical approach. I could definitely see myself researching in the future, but it's been my dream to be a doctor ever since I was a kid. So yeah.
Awesome. What year in school are you?
I'm an upcoming junior.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So getting a little bit closer, but you still have
Yeah.
time.
I still got a little bit.
Awesome. And for my last question today, I would love to know what advice you would give to future researchers looking to join ASDRP.
So advice I'd give to future researchers is first get to know like your advisor pretty well and make sure you know that like what you're expected out of and like what your role is. And then also like once you're put into a project, immediately start researching, just Googling what all this stuff means so that when you go into the lab, you're not completely lost. You're not completely like new to everybody, because when you go in, you're going to be new. There's going to be people that are more experienced than you, but having a good set of base knowledge and background knowledge is going to be really helpful. So just spend that time to like make sure you fully understand your project. I think that's what's helped me the most when I'm working with my tissue culture stuff.
Definitely. That's good advice. That's good advice. Thank you for sharing that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today.
No problem.
It's been wonderful getting to know more about you and your research, and good luck this summer and everything else that you do.
Thank you.
Awesome. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too.
Bye-bye.